Hi there, everybody, and welcome to California wine country, where the racing's woolly and the sheep cut your grass. It's season 2 of the Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA eSports Super Tour, and this week we're at Sonoma Raceway and the home of the 2018 National Championship runoffs. In its 51st year of operation, this 2.5-mile, 12-turn circuit, nestled in the mountains at Sears Point, has almost 160 feet of elevation change from its lowest point to its highest. It will definitely present SCCA drivers like Caleb Patry, John Allen, Max King, and Andrew Pilata a set of challenges unseen so far on the Super Tour. I'm Greg Ginsberg from Performance Motorsports Network and Super Tour Radio, and I'm joined by JG Pasterjack from Grassroots Motorsports Magazine. And as for Larry McLeod, well, apparently he's buried in 6 feet of snow in the hinterlands of Michigan. Well, actually, he's on his way to the Escada SCCA Pro Solo, where he'll be competing this weekend, so he can't join us tonight. So, JG, last week we were at the bull ring that is Lime Rock Park, and although Sonoma Raceway is considerably longer, our racers tonight, they're going to have to encounter some of the very same challenges that they had last week.
This is a track that absolutely does not let you rest for a second, Greg. I'm really surprised, actually, looking at some of our practice times, that the delta of all of these Formula 3 racers so far is not closer. We had, the last time I checked these practice times, we had 10 cars on a second in the lead for this Formula 3 race, and that is really impressive, just given how complex this track is. There are every inch of this track is just one more place for you to screw something up, basically.
It certainly is. You've got a ton of elevation change, like I said, about 160 feet of elevation change, and interestingly enough, as you roll up, and we're looking now at the turns 3 and 3A complex, which is the second half of that rise, but as you come out of off of our front straight and go through turn 1 and up to turn 2, it's a 120-foot rise as we see these cars now coming up the hill. You can't really tell so much here from the camera view, but I'll tell you, as I ran a foot race around Sonoma Raceway 2 years ago when the runoffs were there, that hill is deadly. And once you get up to the top, then you start working your way back down, but it is constantly twisting, turning, raising, or dropping in elevation. And a lot of the turns here present a very different challenge than the drivers have seen at a lot of the tracks. They've got a lot of off-camber turns here as well, sometimes while you're in the midst of rising up over a hill. So, you know, it's a huge challenge for these drivers.
Even the straightaways are corners on this track, basically, and it's really, when you think about the architecture of the track, it's laid out very much like a big autocross course. Every single corner is not just a standalone corner, like, say turn 6 at Road Atlanta. You approach it, you enter, you exit. You've got to give a little bit of consideration to turn 7, but it sort of stands there on its own. Every single corner here leads or follows a series of corners where you're thinking 3, 4, 5 moves ahead for how you want to be positioned when you finally get out of a certain section. So, yeah, a lot of mental challenges for this track, and a lot of places to really get behind the rhythm of the track.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting here because in this configuration, and we're running the full course configuration as opposed to what the NASCAR guys run with the chute. So you'll see here now you've got a number of cars entering into what is known as the carousel here, this bending left-hand
and one sliding
bowl
off of what's known as the carousel right there.
Yeah, exactly. But as they go through here, there are not, as you mentioned, a lot of traditional straightaways here, and so a lot of the tracks where we run and where we have run in the past, where drafting plays such a huge part, kind of like at Lime Rock Park, the draft really doesn't play all that much of a part here in trying to set fast laps or even trying to make draft passes on people, because you do have so many of these different turn complexes that just take away from that straight line speed here at Sonoma.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a place where how people handle traffic is going to be interesting, because it's definitely a track where if it doesn't pay to have a drafting partner. Like you said, there's no real place to gain much speed from drafting, and it's also a place where if you get off your line, it's going to be a couple corners before you can really get back to your line in an efficient way. So if you're following somebody who's maybe just a couple of hundreds faster or slower than you in a certain section, there's every chance that you could be taking tenths off of each other by just making small adjustments through some corners.
Yeah, and so we're following Max King right now in the number 16 car. He was our winner from round 1 at Virginia International Raceway, and you can see him now making his way through the hairpin down at turn 11, which brings you towards the very end of this 12-turn course, and he's crossing the start-finish line right now. Now, of course, we mentioned we have our drivers out right now in the F3 cars. There are actually 2 races scheduled for tonight, as there are every weekend on the eSports Super Tour. We have first our F3 drivers out on course, and we currently have 26 of them that have gone out for qualifying, or have gone out for practice, and we expect them to go out for qualifying in the race as well. And then a little later this evening, we will have our Mazda Global MX-5 Cup racers as well. So lots of action, so definitely stick with us. And if you're watching on YouTube, definitely give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, give us a like on Facebook as well if you're watching there. But JG, you know, we, as you mentioned, even early on in practice, very, very tight, close running here among our front runners. And right now, I'm looking back, and I think we've got 12 cars within 1 second of another. Currently sitting up at the top of the leaderboard is Andrew Pilata, and if you go to simtvbroadcasting.com/timing, you can follow along as well, see the gaps to all the drivers. You can see what their trap speeds are, and of course we do have the timing and the order of all of our racers sitting on the pylon to the left of you, the left of the screen as well. But definitely things are very tight, and these Formula cars, you know, there's a lot of adjustment that these drivers can make to these cars. We talk about it each week, you know, that especially with some of the tracks that have some very long straightaways, how there's always going to be that trade-off between trimming the car out for the straightaways versus giving yourself enough downforce so that you can handle some of the turns here. But I suspect that a lot of the drivers have the car certainly not set up for ultimate straight line speed, but I'm sure a lot of them are going about it in very different ways to set up a car that they feel comfortable in.
And this is a track that, despite how complex it is, most of the corners are within a much more narrow window of speed than some of the tracks we've seen already thus far, especially at tracks like VIR and Road Atlanta, where you've got very fast corners like turn 12 and very slow corners like turn 7. Everything on this track is fairly medium speed. You know, there's no real super high speed courage corners, except maybe the kink heading towards the last hairpin. But a lot of medium speed corners, but a lot of very three-dimensional corners here. Almost every corner, you either approach it on an uphill or a downhill, or the camber changes once, if not several times, throughout the corner. Watching Kyle Vallejos just narrowly avoid getting the front of that car, and he's gonna take a virtual pant cleaning break right there, I think.
Got his front wing clipped off. I was going to say Kyle Vallejos, Drift King there, making his way around the carousel. And let's see who it was that snuck right underneath him. Went by a little too fast for me to get the number. Let's see if we could get it as he exits here. But I think he got a little bit of the front wing. Yep, that's the 713 car. That is Jeff Miner. That went. It was a pretty good way to avoid. Now, of course, Jeff Miner was more or less on the line for the exit of the carousel there, but pretty impressive nonetheless. All right, so we've just had our practice session end, JG. We're going to be moving to qualifying. Now, the qualifying is 15 minutes in length, but the way this works is that when each driver goes out, they don't see all the other race cars on the track with them. They are basically going to have the track to themselves to set a fast lap time, and they are going to have 4 laps on track in order to set their personal best time. We will then set the grid for our 20-minute race based on the fastest lap times from this qualifying session.
This is a very similar format to anybody who's ever run an SCCA time trial, where you've got a warm-up lap and then you've got a very limited time window in which you have to perform. In most time trials, it's going to be a timed session rather than a number of lap session, but it's usually a 15 or 20-minute time session where you're only going to have the opportunity for 4 or 5 fast laps. So you have to get that mentality that you need to be up to speed very, very quickly, and you have a very limited number of opportunities to really get it right.
Yeah, and it's actually very diametrically opposed to how we do qualifying in real life on SCCA road racing weekends, where you have all the cars out on track at the same time, which especially in the world of multi-class racing, where you may have many different cars of different capabilities that in the end aren't actually competing against one another, and you have some types of cars in some classes which may be very fast in a straight line. You may have some that have better braking capabilities than others, some that have better cornering capabilities, that it can really make it very difficult to set a fast lap. And so here, this is, as you mentioned, much like a time trial or an SCCA autocross. You come off of the pit lane and you do your out lap, and then you really have to be prepared to go and set fast laps. And you don't have that full 15 minutes to kind of tool around and finally put a lap together. You've got that out lap and you've got 4 laps in order to put that fast time in.
Riding on board right now with Evan Rackison. He is currently looping around there out of the carousel. He'll have to give up one of those qualifying laps to go back and start over, but he is currently number 2 in the points. We've got 3 separate winners so far this season. The 3 races, 3 winners. What's interesting is one of our winners, Max King, all the way down in 5th place behind 2 guys who have not won a race, Chris DeShong, and Caleb Patry. 3rd and 4th on the point standings, have just gotten there by kind of hanging around, being towards the front every week. Of course, Andrew Pilata and Evan Rackison, 2 of our faster drivers in practice, leading the points so far. And looks like DeShong is going to be first on the board with a 123.1. We saw drivers down in the 122s in practice, so we'll see how long that 123 holds up for DeShong on the provisional pole.
Yeah, and you mentioned Chris DeShong. He's up in the points because he's been able to hang around. He finished 4th last weekend at Lime Rock Park. He finished He finished 3rd last weekend at Lime Rock Park. Last step on the podium. Finished 3rd the week before that at Road Atlanta as well. So that has definitely put him up towards the top of the leaderboard. Evan Rackison, who we saw go around just a few moments ago, was actually our winner last week at Lime Rock Park, and also had a 3rd place finish at Virginia International Raceway. But it looks like we've got a couple other drivers that have now set times. We've got David Schwartz in the number 13 car. Schwartz currently, he was, for a moment, he was your 2nd fastest driver in the number 13 car with a 123.343, but now going to the top of the leaderboard is the driver you're watching right now, Andrew Pilata, in the number 93 car. Sets a lap time of a 122.756. That was, JG, almost 0.4 of a second faster than Chris DeShong.
Yeah, and still about half a second slower than Pilata's practice time, so he's probably got a little bit left in the tank. DeShong took that 2nd place spot back on his 2nd lap, so he's going a little bit faster with every lap. We'll see if our top drivers can hold up. We still haven't seen a full lap. Actually, Max King finally on the board with a 124, and Caleb Patry on the board now with a 123.5. So only 1 driver so far in the 122s, and that is Andrew Pilata. I do not think, based on how many drivers we saw in the 122s in practice, I don't think he will be alone up there for very long.
No, probably not. Now, we do still have a couple of drivers that have not yet set lap times, both John and Grant Vogel, not on the board yet. Kyle Herbst, he's put in a lap time of almost a 5-minute time, so we'll have to see what's going on there. Kyle was in contention, actually, to win at VIR the very first week, and had gotten together with our eventual winner that weekend, Max King. So we'll have to see if he can set a fast lap here.
And the other thing that sort of sets this qualifying apart from even the rare single car qualifying in Pro Series or something is every driver here is on their own instance of the track. So there's nobody else kicking rocks onto the track or throwing a cone onto the track. Everybody has their own sort of personal version of the track that they're dealing with. So if you throw something onto the track, in the virtual space, that will persist. But anything another driver does doesn't affect you.
Doesn't affect you, exactly.
And look who's on top of the leaderboard now. Chris DeShong moving to the front.
Yeah, so DeShong moves to the top of the leaderboard, has provisional pole right now with a 1:22.391. So almost exactly 1/10 of a second faster than our previous provisional pole sitter, Andrew Pilata. Max King now moves up to third fastest in the session with a 1:22.741, and getting now displaced from third fastest, Evan Rackison, who we saw go around a little bit earlier in the session. He is now the third fastest driver on course in the number 9 car with a 1:22.537.
Now 5 drivers down into the 122s. Pilata takes back the top spot, going, less than half a tenth faster than Chris DeShong. 1:22.339 versus a 3:91 for DeShong. Rackison, King, Patry all still in the 122s. Schwartz currently our fastest driver in the 123s.
Now, here's a big surprise. Currently sitting 19th in the number 35 car is Max Grau. Now, Max had a very big weekend this past weekend up at Road America in real life, where he took the win at the June Sprints, which is, other than the National Championship runoffs, the largest and probably most important SCCA road racing event every single year. And this was the 65th consecutive running of the June Sprints. And so Max took the win. Actually, he took the win on Sunday, taking the win on Saturday. And there's Max goes sliding off the course. Taking the win on Saturday is another one of our SCCA eSports racers, and not just SCCA, but very well-known pro racer Kenton Cook as well. But we've seen him here on the Super Tour, and we may actually see him in the MX5 race. I believe he's been running that the last couple of weeks. I wanted to talk for a second here. As we mentioned, Max Grau. Max was running a car provided to him by Competition 1 Racing. They're out of Scales Mountain, Illinois, and you've probably seen their logo here, up on the screen and down at the bottom of the timing pylon. They are one of the partners of the SCCA, and they are offering a prize, an amazing prize, for the winner of this series of this season of the eSports Super Tour in F3. If you win the series, you will get an arrive and drive package for an SCCA driver's school, competition driver school, where you can go to get your competition license at Blackhawk Farms. Now, as I mentioned, Competition 1 Racing, they are based out of Scales Mountain, Illinois, and they are the central U.S. parts dealer for Formula Enterprises. They are a full prep shop, providing frame-up rebuilds, chassis alignments, tire services, custom seat building, suspension, jigging, crash damage repair, and of course arrive and drive packages as well. Now, I said for a number of weeks that Max was actually the proprietor there. As he likes to tell me, he's just the occasional driver and helping hand. Steve Stedell and his father Tony Grau run the business there, and besides putting Max behind the wheel of the June Sprints winning car this year, they have provided the national championship winning car the past 2 years. So definitely a great prize to win that driver school if you can come away with the season championship here on the eSports Super Tour.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that we live in a world where you can turn a casual online hobby into a very active online hobby, into a real world pursuit. So congratulations in advance to whoever gets. You don't just drop somebody behind the wheel of a Formula car without trusting implicitly their skills. So to be able to have some kind of background and know that this is somebody that's got a great ability to read racing lines, a great reaction time, great fine motor control. That's I think says a lot for the current state of sim racing.
All right, so it looks like Kyle Herbst did manage to set at least one lap that counted. He moves up to 6th in the order with a fast lap of a 1:22.891. He did that on his very last lap. Right ahead of him, Mackay Stevens and Evan Rackison. We're looking at John Vogel right now. Now, both the Vogels were sitting down at the bottom of the order, having not set fast lap times. We're on board right now with the number 22 car. That's John Vogel. He's currently sitting 16th with a 1:24.266. That is 2 thousandths of a second off of Jeff Miner, who's currently sitting 15th. Now, John's brother Grant in the number 24 car, currently sitting in 11th. Yeah, so why don't we, JG, take a look. We've been talking about how twisty and turny the track is here at Sonoma Raceway. Let's take a look at the track map and give our viewers an idea of what our drivers have in store for them. So as we take a look here, and we'll start off, you can see down right above the lettering for Sonoma Raceway is the pit lane and the start-finish line. And as you come through there, you're going to make that it's a sweeping left-hand turn. A lot of the cars will get a lot of slip angle, have the rear ends of them step out on them quite a bit, and then you rise up the hill out of turn 1 up to turn 2. As I mentioned, that's a 120-foot rise. Once you come out of there and come out of turn 2, you're going to actually then drop back down again to turns 3 and 3A, and as you come through those turns, you rise back up again, and you've got a much more drastic rise to bring you 160 feet above the lowest section of the track, which is turn 11, and both 3 and 3A, both off camber turns going up the hill, so very, very difficult. And as you come out of turn 3, you head down the hill towards turn 4, and then you're going to start making a run down the hill. You make that right-hander at turn 4 and all the way into the carousel, where we've seen so many drivers slide off the track. It takes a lot of patience there, as a lot of the portions of this track do. A lot of that carousel, that windy area, which is turn 5, you're off throttle, or you're just giving the car, you're goosing the throttle just enough to get the downforce that you need to make your way through. You then have the short run over to turn 6 and 7. I would call it somewhat of a hairpin or maybe a big double apex turn. You're going to see some drivers run very wide there. And then as you make your way through turn 7, JG, this is where it gets very, very twisty. I would actually call this section here from 7 all the way down to turn 11 maybe the longest straightaway at Sonoma Raceway, but it is certainly not straight, and it's certainly not flat. As you raise up and down, it tightens up on you before you get to turn 8, which is at the rise of a hill. It's a blind entry, and a big tendency for drivers to turn in early there and go running through the grass on their way over to turn 9. And then as you make your way through turn 9 and over to turn 10, alongside the drag strip here at Sonoma, we see a lot of issues there as drivers carry a little bit too much speed through 10. The car will get loose and they'll slam either into the wall, drivers left, or drivers right. They'll go right into the back of the drag strip tower, and then that brings them, assuming they can get past that, they go down to the hairpin at 11 and back towards the front straight to complete a lap at Sonoma Raceway.
I think that critical portion of the track is going to be that section from turn 7 racing back down the hill to turn 11. There are a lot of connected corners through there, and it's going to be very rare that you're going to make a perfect run down through that entire section. So it's just going to depend on where you make your mistake. If you make your mistake early, you're going to be able to let the driver in front of you open up a big gap, because you're going to be spending that entire run trying to make that time back up. You make that mistake later, you've got a little bit of a buffer. It's just going to come down to how efficiently can you get back down that hill in, like you said, one of the longer on throttle sections of this very twisty racetrack.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you, in that long section there, it kind of surprised me. I was watching a race here a couple weeks ago where some GT drivers were actually making some passes coming out of turn 7 going into turn 8. It's not something that you typically see. A lot of time that entire section is single file, but you know, we'll have to see if that happens either in this race or maybe in the MX5 Cup race a little bit later on. But JG, we've got our drivers now gridding up and getting ready for their 20-minute race. Why don't we run down the grid here? Actually, we'll look at the weather first, and then we'll run down the grid. So it looks like a typical late day in Sonoma Raceway, Sonoma, California. Not a lot of humidity, 30+% humidity there, and the temperature is just below 80 degrees. So should be pretty prime running for our Formula cars.
Yeah, and that weather in iRacing is no joke. Weather is a big factor for how these tires work, how these cars work. The modeling of that weather is extremely important, and tuning the car properly for the weather is paramount. All right, so we're going to get to, as soon as we get grid up here on the screen, here we go. Andrew Pilata, our series points leader, leads us off on pole. Chris DeShong, starting on the front row this week. Chris has made a lot of progress just by hanging around until the finish. We'll see if he can turn that front row start possibly into a win this week. Max King sitting in 3rd place. Max currently 5th overall in the points. Evan Rackison in 4th, completes that 2nd row. Michael Stevens in 5th. Kyle Herbst in 6th place. Herbst finally getting a decent lap in qualifying. Caleb Patry currently in 4th in the standings, on 7th on the grid. David Schwartz in 8th will round out row 4. Jay King in 9th. Jackson McLeod, Larry's younger counterpart, son, I think they called him, in 10th spot. Rounds out that 5th row. Grant Vogel and John Vogel, 2 brothers, starting in the 6th row, 11th and 12th. They will start side by side. Kareem Hussein, 13th, Nick Heems in 14th. Both of those 2 drivers in the top 12 in the points. Currently, they will be trying to maintain those positions as this race progresses. Kyle Vallejos, fellow we saw have that pucker moment in practice, be in 15th place. Jeff Miner in 16th in the 713 car. Max Grau in 17th. Talked about Max earlier, the Competition Motorsports driver, June Sprints winner from the past week. Stephen Ford in 18th, rounding out row 9. Mick Blue and Michael Hinkle make up the 10th row. Both those drivers in the top 20 in points currently. John Tiu and Andrew Wozencroft will make up the 11th row and 21st and 22nd spot. Alex Jensen and Jay Bonville, our excellent photographer, Jay is, with him professionally a couple times in the past, will make up our 12th row. Chris Hammond and David Swig in the 13th row, 25th and 26th spot. They will be hoping for a little attrition in this race to possibly improve those positions, and that will make up our last row. Greg, take it away.
All right, well, while we wait for the pace lap here to finish, let's talk about one of the great partners of the SCCA, and that is Sunoco, who provides the official fuel of the SCCA. For 125 years, Sunoco has been fueling victories on and off the track, which is why Sunoco has trusted to fuel over 50 series of racing, driving, and winning, including the SCCA National Championship runoffs, SCCA Pro Racing, NHRA, and NASCAR. To find race gas near you, visit www.racegas.com or call Sunoco at 1-800-RACE-GAS. All right, and so the pace car is in. Our pole sitter, Andrew Pilata, is along with Chris DeShong, are coming now out of the hairpin onto the front straight, and we have here now a green flag, and we are underway.
Nice start for Pilata, actually, who pulls the lead on DeShong. DeShong got kind of hung out there at the start. Evan Rackison, it looks like, took over that 2nd spot. And here comes an early big one in turn 2 already.
Yeah, it looks like we had Yeah, it looks like we had Minor and Ford get together up towards the top of the hill. They are now, at least one of them is back underway. But now coming through turn 4, starting to head down the hill into the carousel for the very first time. That's turn 5, is our leader, Andrew Pilata, who, as we mentioned, got a great start. Then we've got behind him, we've got Chris DeShong and Max King now going and pressuring our second place runner, DeShong. And DeShong runs very wide. I mentioned, JG, that we may see some drivers take some very wide entries into that turn 7 complex to try and get set up, but it looks like DeShong may not have been his plan.
Yeah, DeShong had taken second place back and then gave it right back to Max King, and he is trying to get back on rhythm here. Like we said, if you
we have a car. Looks like we got a car that's gone over, and that is Chris DeShong, who now has gone around in the 41 car, and he's collected another car, and he may go and slide all the way out in front of our drivers. Oh my gosh!
Everybody is just taking their quarters off the machine and going to play skee ball now, Greg.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it looks like Kyle Herbst got picked up in that. Caleb Patry, who had been running up, and remember, Patry had finished, I believe he finished 5th last week, but he was up in the points. He goes off, and DeShong just goes for the wild ride here and just slides across. And this is one of the issues at Sonoma, especially when you have no wheels on the ground and you're just sliding on a carbon fiber body. Yeah, you can see as he got together there. With Rackison coming through turn 9, that was a horrible thing. Let's take a look at it in slow motion.
Yeah, let's continue to relive Chris DeShong's horror here over and over again.
Oh my!
Well,
yeah.
he luckily he did buy the Haggerty virtual insurance policy, so it's going to be fine.
Yeah. Presses one button and he can be back out there in like 6 minutes. All right, so now we've gone back to green, and Andrew Pilata, who is one of the only drivers who was able to stay completely clear of that mess. Pilata now is just a little bit less than 2 full seconds up on Max King, who is in second place. And I'm sure Max King now is thanking his lucky stars he got around Chris DeShong coming out of turn 7. And Max King now has Mackay Stevens right behind him. So Stevens made a great jump. And we look at this even a little bit further back. We've got Jake King in the number 39 car, who has made up a lot of ground as well. He's got Grant Vogel, and it looks like both John and Grant also made out pretty well in that melee. They started, I think 10th and 11th, and they are now up to 5th and 6th. So they have made headway, definitely.
And that is one of the things about iRacing is you are in an environment where, because Chris DeShong, he's going to be fine. He's not going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. So you have this environment where drivers are willing to take a few more risks, and things happen. So if you can survive those risky moments, if you can take advantage of that attrition, you can do something like move up into the 4th spot like King has done, or like some of our other drivers well up into the top 5 after 9th, 10th, 11th place starts.
Yeah, we could see there we were just following Max Grau. There he is right there in the number 35 car. He's made up a lot of ground as well. Max is now running in 12th position. I believe he started in 17th, so he's made up 5 positions. And of course, given all of the carnage that we had at the end of the first lap, I think we've lost a lot of cars, and a lot of drivers have made up a number of positions here. But hopefully now things will start to straighten out. We're on board now with Alex Jensen. Jensen currently is running in 17th position, and he is battling. It looks like one of the Vogels just went around. That's John Vogel, the number 22 car, who goes off on the entry to coming out of turn 2, going into 3. And let's see if we can take a look here what happened. It looks like he ran wide, hooked the wheel coming out of turn 2, and went down the grass there, the grass and the sand and the dirt. There's actually not a lot of grass right there, but he's back underway.
watching our intervals a little bit, we're seeing that lead of Andrew Pallotta being cut into very slightly by Max King. And the question you have to start asking yourself is that King getting faster, or is that Pallotta just sort of switching into cruise control mode and maintaining that lead? So that's going to have to be a battle we're going to have to watch for a while. And then it looks like we've got Mackay Stevens currently being shown in third. We're going to have to watch that now 4-second gap back to Max King. That's going to be a really, really tough hill for him to climb at this point.
Yeah, but he's also, and he's kind of sitting in no man's land right now. He's really opened up a pretty large gap back to Jake King. Jake is, I believe, about 6.5 seconds off of Mackay Pfeiffer's third position. So he's another driver that, much like our leader, Andrew Pallotta, can't get complacent, has to keep his focus for the entirety of this race.
You just drop in a Mackay Pfeiffer reference there, Greg? That was...
Yeah. Did I say Mackay Pfeiffer, not Mackay Stevens? Yeah, well, we've got so many drivers that went to the virtual ER. So
yeah.
All right, we're following right now Alex Jensen, and Jensen is let's see. Oh, and
he's in the wall. We're following him straight to hell, Greg. That's why we are following him, and much easier to catch up with him as he's stuck on the pit lane now, like so many of our other drivers. I need to go invest in a virtual body shop right now. Is what I need to do.
Yes. So I'm looking at this, and it appears that the only drivers, and it's kind of a shame because these are all drivers that were that are sitting towards the top of the order, but I believe the only drivers now that were not able to continue were Krista Shong, of course, Evan Rackison, Kyle Herbst, and Caleb Patry. So we're looking at all drivers that, with the exception of Herbst, that had been on the podium in previous weeks here, and so there you go. Krista Shong was third, and Pallotta currently is your leader. Evan Rackison is one of those drivers that got knocked out. He's running second. Caleb Patry was fourth in the points. So things may be very, very different at the end of this evening. Max King, who was sitting down fifth in the points, stands to be your biggest recipient here as we watch him in the number 16 car make his way.
He's certainly going to probably be. I think we're probably going to see without any major intervention by our back markers. You're probably going to see Pallotta hold on to this thing, but I think King's going to be your big recipient of the attrition prize tonight by moving up probably well into the season podium standings at this point.
Now here's I don't want to call it a surprise, but a couple moments ago we were talking about how Jake King was sitting and did not have to worry about Grant Vogel sitting right behind him, but now Vogel is a half a second back of the last spot on the podium as they make their way through turn one and up the hill. Here you can see the elevation going up into turn two. Here as you follow Grant Vogel up the hill right behind Jake King. So we've got the two King brothers. Max is the elder, Jake is the younger, sitting on the second and third steps of the podium currently, but we're only 7 laps in, and from the looks of it, JG, again, this is a 20-minute timed race, we'll probably be able to get in somewhere around 15, maybe 16 laps. So we're just about halfway.
Yeah, and I think you're definitely seeing Vogel putting the pressure on King. Even if King isn't watching his mirrors that closely, he's probably looking at his differential times, and he's seeing that number for Vogel flash between a second and 1.1 seconds, and he is paying very, very close attention to what's going on behind him. That last position of the podium, I've been there a few times myself in iRaces, and of all the positions you don't want to lose, that is definitely one of the ones that you want to defend very, very aggressively.
All right, and here on the brakes going into turn 11, the final hairpin, Grant Vogel much later on the brakes than Jake King, makes up a lot of ground. And typically when you go in there so hot, there's usually, of course, the tendency for the front end of the car to wash out a little bit, and you don't get a good jump out of that hairpin. But this time around, Vogel got a wonderful jump and was able to pull right back up onto the rear of Jake King, and so he's now closed that gap down to only looks like about a quarter of a second, and it was a half second just a half a lap ago.
Little off-track bobble there for Vogel, but I think at this point that we may be looking at until that little off course there for Grant Vogel. I think we may be seeing him with a faster car than Jake King, and him sort of feeling out different areas of the track where he might be able to take advantage and even make a pass. At this point, Pilata has pulled out a 2.5 second lead on second place Max King, so it looks like what we were seeing there was actually Pilata controlling his margin, but Jake King right now is very much not in control of his margin to fourth place Grant Vogel.
No, definitely not. And we saw that Vogel was very tighty coming through turn 7 and able to get things underway. And already you can see how defensive Jake King is getting going into the hairpin. But once again, Grant Vogel having a little trouble on this lap. Last time by, again, very late on the brakes, and it didn't bite him, but this time you could see he lost a couple of car lengths as he made his way through. But right now it definitely looks like he's got the stronger car. Now if we can well, let's follow them for a little bit more, but I think another battle we're probably going to want to jump to at some point is Max Grau in the 35 and Mick Blue in the 23 car, because they've been running very tight, a very tight battle here as well. But here, take a look, Grant Vogel, he's moved right back up to the gearbox of Jake King.
And Nick Heems and Jackson McLeod in 5th and 6th are not out of this podium battle either. They are right behind. They are a little bit less than a second behind this Vogel-King battle. And if Vogel and King keep hammering on each other like this, it's going to let Heems and McLeod sneak right up in there and challenge for that last podium spot.
All right, so here's that battle I was talking about a moment ago, and that is Mick Blue in the 23 car, and oddly enough, in the blue car. And then we've got Max Grau in the number 35. We've given him a lot of time so far, but he's picked up another couple of positions. Last time we saw him, he was 12th overall. He's now moved up to 10th, and as you can see, he's challenging for position. But look at here, coming out of the hairpin, out of turn 11, going back up to that battle for third, Grant Vogel coming right up to Jake King.
And I'm checking our YouTube chat here. Chris DeShong is already in the YouTube chat, and this kind of gives you a good idea of how his night's going. But he said that was a heck of a ride, and boy, this King Vogel battle is just continuing to heat up. Vogel made a move, couldn't make it stick, and then lost momentum for a good 2 or 3 corners after that. Allowed King to peel off him just a little bit, and Heems and McLeod continue to lurk right behind.
Yeah, as long as King and Vogel go side by side through corners, it's going to turn into a 4-car battle for third here soon enough. But talk about side by side, we've got Max Grau and Mick Blue, Blue to the left, Grau to the right, as they come out of the carousel and head over towards turn 7. And it looks like a little bit of brake lock up from Max Grau, but it looks like he's going to get the pass done.
Yeah, and Grau's going to have what looks like a good entry into that downhill section, although Blue is sticking right on his gearbox. That downhill section, so important to maintain momentum down there. As we go back to the Vogel-King battle, these two are going to end this somehow at some point. And again, you start to wonder with this battle is how much of this battle is Vogel controlling? How much of the pace of this is he just dictating by making those moves over and over, and being able to recover from mistakes like that to put himself right on the back of Jake King once again.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch this, because as Jake King has gotten more defensive with almost every single corner, you can see where Grant Vogel is taking the completely opposite tack. He's turning in later and later and later for every single corner. It makes it a little bit easier, maybe a little bit safer to navigate some of these corners, but what it's also allowing him to do is try to set himself up for an over-under, that if he can get close enough, he'll almost by just the nature of where he's tracking the car, allow him to slip underneath Jake King, and he almost did it coming out of turn 2.
Yeah, and we've seen Grant Vogel make plenty of mistakes as he's following. A lot of wheels dropped, a lot of dust kicked up, yet he still manages to get right back up on the gearbox of Jake King. And now he's got Heems McLeod breathing down his neck as well. So he's got to start playing some defense. And there's a pass. Looks like McLeod trying to get under Heems for what would be fifth spot. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to make it stick into turn one, though.
Yeah, this might actually be the best thing for Grant Vogel, as those two drivers were starting to close in on him, and he was having to start to look in his mirrors as opposed to focusing everything up ahead. It looks like we've got the other Vogel, John Vogel, goes around. Looked like that was going into the hairpin. Let's take a look under braking
coming out,
here.
It looks like. Yeah, just got on the gas a little too early. Ended up in the drive-in movie theater in the infield.
All right, let's rejoin the action here, and again, we're looking at that battle between just behind Grant Vogel and Jake King of Nick Heems in the 18 car, Jackson McLeod in the 133, as they make their way out of turn 7 and through the S's here. And
yeah, it looks like Heems definitely playing defense at this point, especially after McLeod showed him a pretty solid pass that was just sort of made in the wrong place. Had that been a pass on the last lap of the race, that would have gotten McLeod over start finish in front of Heems. But because of turn 1, because there was more to the track, Heems was able to maintain position. But it looks like at this point McLeod has got a faster car.
Oh, certainly, and you can see going down into the hairpin, he definitely does, and that's even with McLeod being well. He's trying to get in the mirrors of Heems. I mean, it's pretty clear the way he was moving back and forth, heading down out of turn 10 into turn 11. Here it is, right here, as he moved left, then he moved right, and then set up, and I think he's doing the job there. Heems is definitely getting a little bit rattled.
Yeah, you definitely can't make that many moves on the entrance to a corner and still maintain momentum without having a clearly faster car. Who was that we just saw?
That was Michael Hinkle in the 46 car that went around. And he had the number 20 of Jean 2 with him. That Target car, aptly painted right now, has been right around a lot of spins today.
Yeah, he was more the projectile than the target on that one, I think, Greg.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess so. All right, let's go back again. This is Max Grau with Kyle Vallejos. And so Max is sitting in 9th right now, having dispatched both Mick Blue and also David Schwartz. So let's see how he does now with the battle for 8th and Kyle Vallejos. Oh! Now, of course, we saw Vallejos during the practice do a very good job of avoiding a drifting car, and Max Grau did the same thing there. He was able to duck right under Vallejos. So Vallejos now is going to drop to 9th. Max Grau move him up to 8th.
Yeah, definitely see some familiar faces around all the excitement here, but that's kind of how it goes sometimes. You got to start working with a minute left. You are definitely working through back markers as far back as 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th place. So you've got to, and they may be having their own races going on as well, trying to score those all important points to keep them in the top 10 or the top 15 as we head towards the midpoint of the season now.
All right, and here, as you mentioned, we've got about 45 seconds left, and let's take a look here. Yeah, Max Grau, who's sitting in 8th, just spun the car. That's in the carousel section, or turn 5, and let's take a look here as he dropped the wheel going into the carousel, and that caused the problem for him. So not just overcooking it, but and that's one of the difficulties here a lot of times, is knowing where the edges of your car are or where the end of the track really is. It's not always the same as in real life, depending on what your setup is here. And looks like Max Grau went around once again and backed into the stack of tires there, lost the rear wing for good measure, and we'll see if Max is waiting on traffic or if he's just
that's fine. His dad runs a prep shop. It'll be fine.
Exactly.
He'll do just fine.
New meeting to arrive and drive here. Yeah. All right, so we should be on the very last lap now. Andrew Pilata, who we haven't talked about really since the very first lap, there he is in the number 93 car. He is making his way around now, and assuming he can keep it clean, he should be able to hold on here. Oh, and look at this, Max King, or pardon me, that's Jake King, who was running in fourth position. He spins the car around, looked like coming out of the carousel, and he drops down to sixth. But now crossing the start-finish line, taking the checkered flag, Andrew Pilata. He is, JG, our first two-time winner this season in Formula 3. He takes the win. Max King in the number 16 car, he's going to cross stripe, finishes in second. And then let's see, Grant Vogel will come home third, given that we had Jake King go around, and then Nick Heems in the 18 car will finish in fourth, just off the podium. Let's take a look here as we have a couple cars coming through 11 and around the last bend for 12th. That is David Schwartz running ninth, right behind Kyle Vallejos, and it looks like Vallejos is going to beat him to the line. So Vallejos will come home eighth, Schwartz will come home ninth. And now we look at Max Grau. Max Grau, who had been up as high as eighth, he is going to come down. He doesn't have. He ran one lap without the wing, and he's going to finish this final lap on the pit lane. Yeah, let's take a look at Jake King here. I think he went around. Did he get tapped? Yep, there we go. Looks like the 24 of Grant Vogel got into Jake King. Again, that was the battle, I believe, for fourth position at the time. Here, yep, and you can see just kind of tried to avoid him, and got the rear tire, sent him around, and King lost a couple of spots. He went from fourth back to sixth. Yeah,
Vogel looks like actually put some effort into making that not happen, but when it comes to Formula cars, they are fairly zero tolerance when it comes to any sort of touching. So good job on Vogel to stick with it after that and maintain a third place finish. Where did he start? I think he might have been
I believe they were 9th and 10th. Oh, yeah, there we go, 11th.
That was a nice hard charger for Vogel to finish on the podium after an 11th place start. Actually, Jackson McLeod picked up 5 spots on his way to a 5th place finish as well. And Andrew Pilata probably never been so happy to hear his name mentioned so few times during the course of a race, exactly. In becoming our first multiple race winner of the season.
All right, so we have Andrew Pilata, our winner, with us. JG, I'm sure you have a couple great questions for Andrew.
Oh, yeah, of course. It goes to me, Andrew. Hey, man, first multiple race win of the season, and you kind of cruised away with this one. Was that by design, or was that by luck? How did that work out for you?
I guess you always want it to be by design, right? I think it was probably more luck than anything. I was able to get a good start and was able to kind of space myself out between Chris and Max and some of those other guys. So as they were starting to kind of dice it up, that kind of gave me a little bit of headway to try to get some breathing room. So once I was able to get there, like I kind of started to lay up a little bit and try to reduce my pace, and then Max was just bearing down on me. So I was pretty I was sweating pretty hard there at the end.
So do you work with a live spotter, or are you just watching electronics during a race like this? Because there was a lot of carnage behind you, but there was also a lot of excitement behind you. How much information are you getting during a race to try and change your strategy up in real time?
Well, I'm spending a lot of time looking at the relative box, so I could kind of tell something was going on when I saw people's names kind of dart up and down the relative. Like, oh, okay, well somebody tried to pass 3 people in the turn or something like that. So something must have happened, and then I saw a bunch of people drop back. But usually that's really my best sort of gauge as to where I'm standing, is watch the relative and then try to gauge myself as to, okay, do I need to pick up my pace? Do I need to slow down? Can I save the tires a little bit? So.
Awesome. Well, you're our first multiple race winner of the year, and you are already leading in the points. So you're going in next week with a nice lead. What's your approach being at the front at this point? Do you start practicing for the next race immediately? Not even going to bed, just start practicing right away, or how do you approach the week leading up to next week's race?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm going to have to. I think I've got something invested now at this point. So. Yeah, I think it'll be a little bit more practice and taking it a little bit more seriously, I guess. But I guess my thing is just to try to be consistent. So try to avoid accidents, try to keep the car set up fairly drivable, and hope for the best.
Awesome, man. Thanks for joining us. Congratulations on a nice win tonight, and thanks for being one of the few drivers to not provide us with a heart-stopping moment out there.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, JG. Good luck with the duck bite.
Oh, thank you. It's healing up nicely.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure.
All right, that's Andrew Pilata, our race winner from Race 1 tonight, Formula 3, and our first 2-time winner this season on the eSports Super Tour. Thanks for joining us. All right, so we're going to take a break in just a few moments here. Oh, actually, we're not going to take a break. We're going to talk to Max King. We have him in the booth now as well. And Max finished second today, and he also stood to really move up the order in the point standings here towards that Formula Enterprises 2 arrive and drive package that we're giving to the winner this season. So Max, kind of an exciting end to lap number 1, and you made the pass on I guess it was on was it on Rackison? I think it was.
DeShong.
Oh, it was, that's right. Actually, you passed Chris DeShong coming into turn 7 on the first lap, and then right behind you, Chris DeShong and Rackison got together, and all hell broke loose, both between 10 and 11, and then once again between 11 and 12 as he came across. Once you knew that a lot of the pressure was off, how did you approach the race?
Try not to spin out, really, but I failed to do that twice. So I had a little half spin in the middle of the race. I think it was lap 7 or something like that. And then the last lap, I was pushing a little too hard in the brakes at the end of the first sector, and did another little half spin. But Andrew must have had that thing set up and dialed in. But I was tracking him down for a lot part of the race, and I was catching him inch by inch, but I think he was just more comfortable in the car, and I was just driving a little bit more on edge and a little more risky. But it was my mistake. I think I could have caught him, gave you guys a good show, but anyway, it was a good race and good for the points, so hopefully we can get them next week.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess next big question. Next week, we're going to stay on the West Coast. We're going to be going over to WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Have you raced one of the F3 chassis out there yet, or is there a lot of practice time ahead for you?
Oh yeah, it's some of the iRacing official F3 series. I've done that, so I have a setup for that. So that shouldn't be too bad. I was making one this week for this track, and that was pretty tough, considering how sketchy the first sector is. But you have to do everything you can to compromise for that first sector to be fast everywhere else, and that's really tricky. But we'll go to Laguna Seca. I'll feel more comfortable there.
Excellent. All right. Well, this was Max King, who, as we mentioned, he's moving up in the order here in the F3 series, and he took second place this evening here at Sonoma Raceway. Thanks for joining us, Max.
Thanks, Greg. See you next week.
All right. So, as I was going to say before we talk to Max, we're going to take a break here in just a few moments and get ready for our second race of the evening, the Global MX5 Cup Series. But before we do, I want to talk about another one of the great partners that we have here with the SCCA, and that is Tire Rack. Now, Tire Rack was established over 40 years ago with a product line that fulfills the tire, wheel, suspension, and brake needs of enthusiasts and their friends for both the track and the road. As the official tire retailer of the SCCA and title sponsor of the SCCA National Solo Program, Time Trials National Tour, and Time Trials Nationals, TireRack.com, America's leading high-performance tire and wheel source, is able to showcase a broad range of new products in suspension, brakes, and accessories while supporting the grassroots motorsports enthusiasts. For more information, go to TireRack.com. So, JG, why don't we take a quick break here for a few moments? We'll get ourselves reloaded. I know I need a little bit more water, and we'll get ready for what is no doubt going to be another barn burner in the Global MX5 series.
Looking forward to it, man. I'll see you in a few minutes.
All right, you are listening to the 2020 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA eSports Super Tour. Stay tuned. We'll be back with you in just a few moments.
When the finish line calls, we answer. Hit the road with insurance protection from Hagerty. Whether you drive a built racer, sports car, or exotic, and save an average of $264. Get a quote today at Hagerty.com.
Time Trials is a 2-day event typically for our national events. It's 2 20-minute sessions each day with a track sprint added in, which is, it starts with a standing start, flying finish, so it's a lot like a hill climb. You've got autocrossers out here, you've got road racers out here. It doesn't really matter what your background is, you're gonna find a home here that's pretty rad.
It's a lot of fun, it's a lot of speed, it's safe, and it's a great group of people, and it's very well organized. The organizers really have it running like a top now. Everything from getting transponders on the cars, getting them gridded, getting them out on track safely, and making sure that everybody has a good time.
You have to learn the track, you have to know the track, you have to know how your car's gonna behave on track, because really what a time trial is a qualifying lap. I always say if you get 2 solid laps in, that's perfect, because once you do 2 laps on street tires, you're gonna burn them down. We don't grid by class, we actually grid by experience level. So you'll be with like individuals with like skill levels and like experience, and that's part of what makes this program awesome and an easy entry to get into this kind of thing.
The way the competition is structured, the way the coaching hierarchy is structured to where every group gets a coach and everybody's working on what they're doing every session, it makes it really easy to get new people into it, and that's what this is all about. I particularly like time trials because the barrier to entry is so much lower than like road racing. The level of build quality, especially at time trial nationals like the sport class, is so incredible to where you can show up with a stock car and be competitive because that's what the class is built around. The SCCA, they have a plan, they work the plan, and they pull off some big events, and it's really impressive to see.
Once you get involved with the SCCA time trials and you get a license and you move up the rank, you get up to advanced, then you can move on. If you wanted to dig deeper and get really into time trials, there's other programs out there that they want to see that license to know where you're at and that you're good enough to run. So it's a great place to start, but it's also a great place to blossom and then move on and move up the ranks. Just like road racing, you start as an amateur and you move up to professional. If you've never done it before, just come out and experience it, because the way we set up our time trials, it's perfect for the beginner. We've had people who have never done a track day come out and run with us and have a blast. And I mean, come on, driving 10/10ths on a road course, how can you beat that?
And we're back with the 2020 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA eSports Super Tour. Got to correct myself there. I'm Greg Ginsberg with JG Pasterjack from Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, and we are now setting up for race group number 2, and that is our Global MX5 Cup racers. They are already on the track for qualifying, JG. And again, this is a 15-minute qualifying session, sitting up at the top of the leaderboard. Not the name that we are unfamiliar with. That's DJ Alessandrini, who actually won this race last week at Lime Rock Park.
More importantly, I want to know who the first person to ever say "and we're back" is, because do you think they knew? You think they had any idea what they had stumbled upon right there, Greg?
No, not at all. Greatest segue of all time.
Exactly. Yeah, Alessandrini's sitting on top of the leaderboard right now. I'm right in between the part where I have to put my glasses on and take them off to read those tiny numbers. But it looks like we've got only a couple of drivers in the 148s. Alessandrini and Maloney down in the 148s. A bunch of drivers, half a dozen of them, in the 149s, and rounding out the top 10, a couple of professional MX5 drivers, Celine Royan and Preston Pardis, 149.9 and 150.1. So about 1.5 seconds separates the entire top 10 at this point in Spec MX5.
Yeah, matter of fact, we were talking about Max Grau earlier and his exploits at the June sprints at Road America last weekend. Preston Pardis also had a great weekend. He won the Saturday sprint race. It's a 25-minute timed race at the sprints, oddly named enough. But on Sunday, finished second in a heck of a drag-out battle. Finished second to his teammate, Jim Drago, who's the only two-time national champion in Spec Miata. But it was a 5-car battle for the win over an entire 35-minute race. It was really something to watch. I have some great video from Danny Stain, who I actually think finished 5th in the race, but it was a 5-car race pretty much from the drop of the green flag. And Celine Rowan, the exact same night, was racing iRacing in TDI Cup Jettas at Daytona Speedway with me and a couple other folks. So little bit different there, but now we're on board watching the number 15 car, Ryan Maloney. Maloney last week finished 3rd in Global MX5 Cup, and of course he is running the Olsen Vest MX5 car. I want to mention Olsen Vest and Alan Olsen, who is a Spec Racer Ford and Spec Miata racer out of the Washington D.C. region and runs that company, and I guess he's got Ryan Maloney there with indentured servitude or something, and has to run his name on the side of the car for some reason. But there you go. Here we're following now the number 68 car. That's Tony Chow, and Tony currently running 5th fastest overall with a fast lap of a 149.181. That's only 12 thousandths of a second off of Ismael Basso, who's 4th fastest, but it's about 55 hundredths off of Ryan Maloney. So things are starting to tighten up towards the front of the field now.
Well, and actually, we've just seen Maloney jump into the top spot about 20 thousandths in front of DJ Alessandrini, and trying to see how many laps those guys have in on qualifying. See if we're see how close we're getting to the end of qualifying here. I don't know, Kyle. Yeah, do we know? Okay,
yeah, it looks like Maloney's Maloney's gotten all 4 of his laps in. I believe that Alessandrini is still out on course, and I think he's got 1 lap remaining. And we've been following John Allen. Now, Allen was our winner at round 1 at Virginia International Raceway. He's currently sitting 3rd on the timing pylon in that number 101 car with a fast lap of a 148.824. That is 22 hundredths, about 2 tenths off of John Allen. But now big changes. We look at John Allen's the smiley face helmet there. But we have a new leader atop the pylon, and that is DJ Alessandrini. Sets a lap time of a 1:48.597. That is 5 thousandths of a second clear of Ryan Maloney.
One of the names we're not seeing anywhere on the board tonight is Jack Tranter, our winner from, let's see, week 2, I believe, which would have been, that was Road Atlanta. Our Road Atlanta winner. Is he entered this week? Do we even know?
I don't see Jack Tranter as as one of the cars out on track. So it looks like he is probably going to fall back a bit in the order. He is, and he was not very high up in the order to begin with. He had a pretty disastrous first weekend at Virginia International Raceway. Let's take a look here, where he is. He's currently 12th going into this weekend in the point standings. Now, let's make mention real quick, while we still have about a minute left to go in qualifying, we talked about that great package that the Formula 3 drivers were getting, or the winner of the Formula 3 season would get. Well, there is also a great prize and actually series of prizes for our Global MX5 Cup winner in Season 2 here of the eSports Super Tour. And it is offered by the great folks at Hawk Performance. It is also offered by the folks at Hawk brake pads, actually Hawk Performance, as well, and Koni shock absorbers. And what they are going to get if they win the series is, first off, a set of Koni shocks. In addition to that, a set of Hawk pads and a set of Hawk rotors, as well as a free entry into the 2020 Tire Rack Time Trials Nationals, powered by Hagerty, and that's held at NCM Motorsports Park in Bowling Green, Kentucky, the home of the Chevrolet Corvette. I don't have the date of that weekend here, but that is going to be a great event. It was last year, and both Koni and also Hawk Performance really stepping up to the plate here. A full set of shocks and pads and rotors, certainly not cheap. So I want to thank them, and of course the SCCA and Hagerty, for providing that free entry to the Time Trials Nationals. But it looks like qualifying has finished, JG. So let's look at the weather real quick. Well, it looks very well. Here's a big swing. So the air temp and track temp, not very different from what we saw for the Formula Car race, right around just a little bit below 80 degrees. But look at the swing in the humidity.
Some of that North Bay fog blew in and then settled in the Sonoma Valley up there, it looks like, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely. So we saw the first group had to deal with humidity in the low 30% range, and here they're almost going through soup. And yeah, especially in the mornings here, and both the mornings and the evenings, the fog rolls in across the mountains here, and you can get to the point where you can't even see the track. But still looks pretty clear here. Just is going to get a little soupy for the drivers.
Yeah,
all right, so
certainly not keeping the crowds away by.
And yeah, huge crowd, and just like every other SCCA race I've been to in the last couple of years. So JG, let's start running down the starting grid here.
All right, let's do it. Sitting on pole, we should have our series leader, DJ Alessandrini. Ryan Maloney is going to share the front row with him in the number 15 car. Row 2, right behind them, John Allen. Allen currently in second place in the series standings, I think. Let me go confirm that. Yes, he absolutely is. Luke Pfeiffer is sitting next to him on row 2. Row 3 is going to be Ismael Basso. Tony Chow will be in the number 6 spot. They will be looking to stay on those tails of those leaders and move up onto the podium before the end of the race. Elias Roman and Celine Royan in the 4th row, 7th and 8th place. Michael Carter, another longtime pro Spec Miata racer, in the number 9 spot, rounding out the top 10. Justin Hall in the 164 car. Sixth row, Preston Pardis and Will Robbins in 11th and 12th. Preston coming off a win at the June sprints, and Robbins will be rounding out that row 6 for us. Greg Hubler and Kevin Zhu make up the 7th row in 13th and 14th on today's starting grid. Murphy Nichols and Charles Bailey will make up the next row, 15th and 16th spots on tonight's MX5 grid. They'll be followed up by Thomas Pendergrass and Mike Taylor in 17th and 18th on the 9th row. Nathan Stratton and Eric Parker in row, row 10 in 19th and 20th. Bjorn Strange and Charles Vaccaro in 21st and 22nd, the 2 car and the 221 car. Charles Younger and Pax Rolfe will make up the 12th row. Todd Martin, Ben French in 25th and 26th on the 13th row. Adam Buchanan, Artie Gallegos in the 27th and 28th row. And Kyle Robertson will bring up the rear of the field in 29th spot for tonight's MX5 Cup race.
All right, and for the $10 million in the stands at Sonoma, real quick as this pace lap finishes up, let's talk about one of those great partners here of the SCCA, and that is Coney Shock Absorbers, because Coney Shock Absorbers and the SCCA have had a very strong history from the 1950s all the way up to the present day. Coney adjustable shocks and struts have for decades been a cornerstone and often starting point for performance suspension, refinement, and tuning. From being the maker of the industry's first adjustable shock absorber to today's patented FSD street shocks, Coney has long demonstrated that product improvement means product innovation. For more information regarding Coney products and activities, please go to www.coney-na.com, or you can visit them on social media at Facebook, that's Coney Shock Absorbers, and Instagram at Coney Shocks. And we have the green flag, and DJ Alessandrini jumps out to a quick lead over John Allen in the number 101 car, and those two drivers have a heck of a history here on the eSports Super Tour. John Allen getting around Ryan Maloney, who started in second place. Then we've got Ismael Basso, Luke Pfeiffer, Tony Chow, and Elias Roman, as well as they make their way up through turn 3, and it looks like the whole field here starting to go single file, JG, and let's see if that holds. It looks like we've got a couple cars running wide through turn 4.
Yeah, a couple cars juking for position. I've just heard that Luke Pfeiffer has gone off, but except for that number 10 car getting off into the grass, a fairly uneventful start so far for this MX5 Cup race. DJ pulling out about 0.4 of a second lead over John Allen, and we've seen these two battle in 3 races so far this season. Probably going to see them battle for the rest of this season as well.
So how many laps do you think it's going to take for Pfeiffer to get to the top of that hill, as he was trying to drive straight up basically like a 45% grade? I suspect he's probably still going to be there on lap 5 or 6, still spinning his wheels. All right, so here's
it's like we had somebody off at the top of the hill coming out of turn 7 up there. Who was that?
Yeah, that's Nathan Stratton in the 124 car. He's now running 28th. The only person behind him is Luke Pfeiffer, who we saw a little bit earlier, as our leaders now coming through and out of the hairpin at turn 11. DJ Alessandrini, not much of a lead, but looks like we've got another car that goes around. That is almost goes around. That's the 243 car of Kevin Sue, and he was right behind Justin Hall and Will Robbins, and now looks like Eric Parker going around. Lots of drivers having some issues with the hairpin there.
Yeah, seeing a little bit of carnage here at the start of this race, but not nearly as much as we saw at the start of the Formula 3 race. It looks like so far the big recipient of a great start was maybe Celine Royan and Ismael Basso. Royan up into the number 6 spot, and Basso up into the number 5 spot. Never mind. Both those guys started in exactly the same spot.
Same position, yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Tony
Myself out. Yes.
But Basso had made the move around Tony Chow and then gave it up at the top of turn 1, and now we've got Celine Roland. Oh, and he gets tapped twice going around. I was just going to mention, JG, that the one trait that Celine has had almost on every stop of the Super Tour, both this season and also last season, and is how aggressive he has been and how hard he tries to push the cars ahead of him. And you could see there coming through the carousel, he just got on the throttle a little bit too early. And let's take a look here. We've got the 66 car going around. That's Mike Taylor trying to exit through the fence, try to go up and see some of the sheep up the hill.
But and that is a tough chain link fence, I got to say. They build them strong in the North Bay area up there. Boy, we've got a 3-car train at the front. Taylor,
that's
Allen and Maloney there at the front. You can just about throw one car cover over those 3 MX-5s at this point. This is about as close as you'll ever see anybody get to DJ Alessandrini and really pose a big threat to him this early in the race.
Yeah, and we've seen John Allen have some great battles so far with DJ. The very first week, John Allen took the win at Virginia International Raceway, and I think it was only by about a 1/10 of a second over DJ. Last week at Lime Rock, DJ returned the favor, and those two drivers were pretty much swapping positions all the way up until the very last lap. As a matter of fact, I think DJ was sitting in second with 2 laps to go. And then, of course, there was that great race last season at Mid-Ohio where DJ admitted to murdering John Allen, going through madness.
Yeah, the brutal battle at Road Atlanta a couple weeks ago too, where they were sort of jockeying to be positioned properly in second place towards the end of the race to get that good draft down the back straight. The Sonoma Raceway, though, not a real drafting track. This is a track where you want to get out front and stay out front, and I think we're going to see a lot of aggression from all 3 of these drivers to make sure that they are playing defense this entire race.
Exactly, yeah. If a hole opens up, you need to take it. And actually, great move we saw just a few moments ago. Preston Pardis, who's the 2017 national champion in Spec Miata in the SCCA. Of course, I mentioned his win at the June Sprints just a little while ago. He made a great move on Elias Roman going through turn 4, and you can see now he's started to open up that lead over Roman, and Roman now caught up with Justin Hall, Will Robbins right on his tail.
Got a nice crowd watching us over on YouTube right now, and my apologies to anybody who is trying to watch us on Facebook. From what I'm hearing, Facebook is not being real cooperative tonight, so our apologies to anybody who's been trying to follow along on Facebook. Oh, is that Celine in trouble again? And he cancels the car out just in the nick of time. And actually, Scott Stratton is giving a shout out to his boy Nathan there, who's competing in the MX-5 Cup race as we speak.
Oh, there you go. And you can see Roland just got the curbing there right at the inside, popped over.
So yeah, nice crowd over there on YouTube, and there's your boy Scott making you proud. Hopefully he cut his hair the way you wanted to, and everything's cool. He cleaned his room and did whatever.
Oh, and there's Elias Roman in the 13 car after getting past the last lap by Preston Pardis, puts the car around, and we talked about earlier how difficult turn 3 was. Oh, there we go. Actually, he was trying to get Pardis back right where Pardis passed him the previous lap, and just went too deep down into the corner after Pardis admittedly had some problems coming out of turn 3A. Let's take a look here. Pardis went to turn in, and looks like Roman. If Pardis hadn't turned into him, I think Roman might have ended up over in the ended up over by the Golden Gate Bridge. So
that went better than it should have for both those drivers, I think.
Yeah.
All right, DJ looks like he's pulled out about a 3-car length lead over John Allen at this point, which is not much, but in a race like this, every little bit is going to help. Maloney still right on Allen's tail, though, and they've got a nice gap back to Tony Chow in 4th place. So these 3 leaders kind of running off and hiding by themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually the plan with, at least with some longer races, is to try and separate yourself yourself from the rest of the field so that you can battle for the last couple of laps. And I think that's pretty much what's happened here. You saw that all these drivers just stayed in line, and I think they're going to try and eke out as large a gap as they can back to fourth place runner Tony Chow in the 68 car. Now we're on board with Pax Rolf in the number 29. Rolf is currently running 16th, and he's right up there with the 99 of Greg Hubler as they crest over the top of turn number 2, make the quick little drop into 3A and they're into 3, and you can see where they rise back over the hill and they go off camber and over the curb there. Really unsettles these cars quite a bit.
Actually, a nice tight little group there from 12th back to about 16, only separated by a couple of seconds. So a lot of close racing, even deep into the field here in Spec MX5. And that's, yeah, we mentioned that during F3. If you are hanging around in the right place at the right time, these fields are so close that when a few drivers make a mistake and you capitalize on that, you can make one of those moves from 22nd all the way up to 12th, and you can, you know, with some good driving, hold those positions for as long as you possibly can.
All right, we were sitting on board with Preston Pardus. You can see he's the second car in that line right there. He's right behind the number 35 of Will Robbins. This is the battle for 8th position. And, you know, and I've seen this on the Super Tour, and I've seen this in real life as well, that, you know, it would not surprise me when Preston Pardus is running like 8th or 9th position with about 5 laps to go in a race, because that's pretty much par for the course, and then he somehow miraculously ends up usually in the top 3. So we'll see, but he's got a long way to go. Looks like Murphy Nichols spins the car around. We'll go back and maybe find that spin in a few moments. Murphy Nichols, JG, is our youngest driver, I believe, on the eSports Super Tour right now. Not even old enough to have his driver's license. I believe he is only 15, and you know, some people were concerned that he might come and take some retribution for some of my comments last week before I reminded him that he'd never be able to get down to North Carolina without his father.
And what a great advantage he's going to have when he gets into a rough car after having so much prep and just knowing fairly intimately some of these tracks he might be running at someday.
Exactly. Yeah, without a doubt. Now he is from the I believe from the Washington D.C. area, actually the Maryland area. Oh, and here's a big surprise. Will Robbins, who we saw racing with Preston Pardus just a little while ago, he's gone off wide through the carousel, through the big sweeping wide turn 5. And yeah, it looks like he overcooked it, started to lose the rear, and then overcorrected.
Yeah, and I'm showing Pardus up into 8th spot now, so he is working his way up from about a 12th or 13th place start. Yeah, 11th place start, and he's had a couple of incidents already, and has managed to continue to improve. This is a series. These MX5 Cup cars are a little bit delicate. You can rub a little bit, but you can overdo it. They are very tricky cars to handle, even with the newest tire model in place on iRacing. It takes a very light, very delicate touch on these cars to not either kill your momentum or just flat spin the car.
All right, let's see here. We've got Charles Younger, who is maybe up for the Hard Charger Award tonight. He's moved up to 12th from 23rd. You can see he took a pretty nice and tidy line there through the hairpin to complete the lap, and he's got a bit of a way to go to get up to Charles Bailey, the number 63 car, currently sitting in 11th, and the gap there almost 10 seconds. So it's gonna take a pretty Herculean effort right now from that driver to get up one more position. All right, let's jump back to our leaders.
Yeah, we're watching DJ pull a little bit of a gap on Allen and Maloney right now, although they're reeling him right back in under the braking. By the way, while we have as close to a break in the action as we're ever going to get during a race like this, throw a plug in for our Tuesday night Fun with Cars sessions. If you're watching the action tonight, wondering how you can get in on the SCCA culture and doing some virtual racing with a bunch of other SCCA members, join us on Tuesday night Fun with Cars sessions. Typically, the sessions are taking place at the same track that the official Sunoco races will be held at on the following Thursday. Except for the Tuesday night races, you don't need to be an SCCA member. You just show up, get the password, and join us for some fun with cars on Tuesday.
Yeah, and for that, all you need to do, if you go to SCCA.com, and you should be able to find the eMotorsports program listed there, and we have all the information about those Fun with Cars sessions. Again, you do not need to be an SCCA member, but you'll find a lot of really high caliber SCCA eSports drivers there, and you can definitely learn a lot. And hopefully, and even if you are an SCCA member, hopefully you'll feel confident that you can join us on the eSports Super Tour for season 3 when it rolls around. We'll have some more info about that in the coming weeks, I'm sure.
Yeah, and as we're seeing tonight, the level of driving here is pretty high. I mean, Greg, you're like me. You probably hop into a bunch of public rooms on iRacing now and then, and look, it's a great platform, but there's a few psychos out there. I'm not going to lie. There are some people who you kind of wonder, is there a gas leak in their house? Is something going on? But the level of competitiveness and the level of just sort of courtesy and professionalism in these SCCA events is really fun, really refreshing, and it's nice knowing even if you're battling for 13th and 14th spot, that you're battling with somebody who is sort of shares this love of sports cars and this love of motorsports, and is having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, without a doubt, JG. So definitely recommend if you can, if you've got some time, we have these Fun with Cars sessions both on Tuesday nights and I believe on Saturdays as well. So definitely join us. All right, let's jump back up to our lead pack right now. We've got DJ Alessandrini, who's now opened up. Looks like almost, it doesn't look like much on track, but it's actually almost 0.7 of a second now over our second and third place runners, John Allen and Ryan Maloney. Definitely the largest lead he's had the entire race, and I think as Maloney now is starting to put the pressure on John Allen, that's allowed DJ to certainly not run away and hide, but he's been able to open up and extend that gap now as we have about 5 minutes left to go in this race. That's going to be probably around 3 more laps to go here. So time definitely starting to round down here in our Global MX5 Cup race.
Yeah, and we have not really seen the aggressive level of probing at this track that we've seen at some other tracks, especially like Road Atlanta. We've seen drivers make a few mistakes. We just saw John Allen run a little bit wide on the entrance to the carousel there, but we haven't really seen the aggressive sort of experimentation. Although here's a little bit of a feint by Maloney, so he can kind of judge what Allen's going to do there, but we really have just sort of seen these drivers trying to preserve their positions more than trying to aggressively overtake each other.
Yeah, no doubt. There's been some of that action a little bit further back in the pack, and we've seen where Preston Partisan is Malbasso, we're running very close to one another. But here, certainly at the front of the field, it has been a very gentlemanly affair where these drivers have really again decided to more or less wait, I think, before taking the battle to one another. But I suspect, especially in the battle for second now, and this is to DJ Alessandrini's advantage, I think. I have a feeling that as the clock starts to wind down, the 15 car of Ryan Maloney is going to really start pushing the matter with the 101 of John Allen.
Yeah, they're watching the clock just as close as we are, if not even closer. And at some point, it's going to be the Fisher Cup bait time is going to happen here, and Ryan Maloney's going to have to make a move if he wants to take over that number 2 spot. See where Maloney is in the point standings and how aggressive he might want to be here. Yeah, Maloney currently, actually we're looking at our 1, 2, 3 drivers in the point standings. Currently 1, 2, 3 in the standings. So as tonight goes, so shall the point standings shake up most likely.
All right, so as they come now down, they take that shortish little run out of the carousel into turn 7, and you can see how that kind of sweeps open. And if you clip that curb right at the apex of 7, it will really upset the car. And you can see how much ground Maloney lost that time around. But here, let's jump back a little bit further back. This is the battle for 4th with Ismael Basso and Tony. Oh, actually, no, this is. Yeah, well, let's jump one more back. It's the 08 of Michael Carter, who races in the real MX5 Cup Series along with Celine Rowland and Justin Hall in the 164. So this is the battle for 6th position right now.
Yeah, that's become a battle just in the last couple of laps. And Carter doing his best to try and hold off Hall. He's got about 2 car length lead as they approach turn 11 right there, although Hall sucks him right up under braking. We'll see if he can get any kind of run. Oh, a little bit of oversteer from Hall. It's going to kill his momentum coming out of turn 11. Carter's just going to drive away from him as we head into the white flag lap here, Greg.
Yeah, the white flag is in the air. We are on the very last lap as we've got our leader, DJ Alessandrini, leading both John Allen and Ryan Maloney through the turns 3 and 3A complex, and now into turn number 4 and head down that hill down into the carousel. And I'll tell you, when I ran this, when I ran a 5K race here at Sonoma, this little section was the most painful part here because, again, it's kind of hard to tell with this this drone view that we're watching right now, but the track really drops away from you going through the carousel before it straightens out again and actually starts to rise just a little bit on this section of the track. And it looks like both Allen and Maloney have made up a little bit of ground, but no one of those 2 cars is close enough to one another, although Maloney's closing up on Allen now, but no one of those 2 were really close enough to the car in front of them to even attempt to pass. And I think we're getting to the point now as they come through the S's here for the last time that Maloney's going to have to basically be king of the late breakers going down into the hairpin.
Yeah, all 3 of these drivers really seem to be controlling their own pace at this point, and it's going to take either a hero move or a very big mistake on the part of one of these drivers for this order to change dramatically. Although here comes Maloney trying to be that hero. Yeah. Entering the final corner, DJ is going to accelerate his way towards start finish, and it looks like outpace Allen for the win, and it will end pretty much the way it's been the whole race. Alessandrini, Allen, Maloney are 3 points leaders. Are 3.
Oh, look at this battle right here!
Wow.
This is the battle for 8th right now with Thomas Pendergrass and Preston Pardis in the 14 car. Pardis trying to do everything to get around Pendergrass. Cannot get it done. Now, Pendergrass had passed Pardis back a couple laps ago, and to the line it is going to be Thomas Pendergrass finishing in 8th, Preston Pardis 7th. Now, we did talk about the cars just ahead of that battle, but Tony Chow came across the line in 4th. Ismael Basso, who previously had been battling it out with Preston Pardis. Basso's going to finish 5th. Michael Carter in the 08 car will be 6th, and Justin Hall. And then, of course, that battle that we saw there. Then Kevin Sue in the 243 car. He's going to round out the top 10. And hey, look, there was was that the number 10 car that Luke Pfeiffer. Now, remember Luke Pfeiffer, who we saw go around on the very first lap and kind of joked that he was going to be trying to drive up the dirt hill. So he had fallen all the way back to 29th position. Luke Pfeiffer finishes in 16th spot. So, yes, he started on row 2, had a disastrous first lap, but did a great job to start working his way back through the field and try and collect at least a few points.
Yeah, and very much a different kind of race this week at Sonoma Raceway. You really got the feeling, especially in this MX5 Cup race, that the track was a huge factor in these drivers just trying to basically negotiate the 11 numbered corners. But if you really sit down and count the number of control inputs, it's really a lot more complex. Yes. Even than just 11 corners. So yeah, we saw what was not a race full of moves, but a race full of a lot more subtlety this week, Greg.
Yeah, you could tell, and we talked about this at the top of the show, where the course itself was going to be as much a challenge as the competitors were to one another on track, and I definitely think we saw that today. So, Kyle, Mr. Director, do we have any of our podium finishers we can drag into the interview box here? All right. Well, we'll give that a second, and tell you what. While we're waiting to see if we have any of our finishers here that we can talk to, let's talk about another one of the great partners of the SCCA, and of course we talked about them with the Global MX5 Cup Series, and what great awards they're giving to the winners this season on the Super Tour, and that is Hawk Performance, the official brake products of the SCCA. For over 25 years, championship-winning drivers and teams have demanded Hawk Performance Motorsports brake pads. Now you can have their advanced technology on your daily car, truck, or SUV with Hawk Performance Street Friction products. With the improved HP Plus pad for that hybrid street and track feel, or Super Duty pads for tow vehicles, or the new Talon Street Rotors, Hawk has all of your braking needs covered. Visit hawkperformance.com and like them on Facebook to learn more about the Hawk Performance Advantage. Hawk Performance, what's stopping you? All right, so we've got Tony Chow. Tony finished in 4th position here on this evening in Sonoma, and started 6th. So Tony, why don't you tell us a little bit about your race?
There isn't much to talk about. I came in.
Well, thanks for joining us, Tony. No, just kidding.
I'm not sure what happened in the beginning. That's the only part I'm a little bit not sure. Is like, I feel like it looked like there was some net code, but it didn't say anything on my screen. So I'm not sure what happened there. Someone just like spun out in front of me. So.
Right in front of you. Yeah, well, that was actually Luke Pfeiffer, who started 4th. He spun out, and I guess it was coming out of turn 2. He dropped the wheel, I think, coming out of turn 2, heading into turn 3 on that very first lap. But otherwise, seemed to be. I certainly didn't want to call it an easy race for you, but somewhat uneventful, I guess, for you. Or any big challenges that you saw through the 20 minutes?
Yeah, I think you're right. Mostly in the beginning, it was just, a lot of action going on. And after like 2 laps, it was pretty relaxed, actually. I kind of wish there was more action. I kind of wish I wasn't so far back from the top 3. But,
yeah, I was going to say it happens, and I know that Ismail Basso, who for a while had been mired back somewhere around 9th position and battling it out with Preston Pardis, he started to make his way up towards you, but you still had a pretty substantial, I think almost a 4-second lead over him at the stripe. So unfortunately that didn't materialize. But you're coming away with a lot of good points here, and you're going to be moving up. Hopefully moving up in the overall standings.
It's good to hear. Good to hear. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks. That's Tony Chow, finished 4th this evening in Global MX5 Cup here on the eSports Super Tour, and we've got Ryan Maloney as well. JG, you have any questions for Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ryan, we didn't really see the kind of aggressive sort of poking and prodding that we've seen in the MX5 Cup races to this point in the season. Was that how much was the track a factor in that? This is a real complex track, has a lot of stuff going on out there. Was what we were seeing accurate? Was there really not the sort of aggressive feeling out that there usually is in these races, or was it just more subtle than we actually realized up here in the virtual booth?
Yeah, it was track's really hard to pass at, but also it seemed like we were really equal kind of almost everywhere on track. I might have had a little bit in one section, but I was getting beat in another. So yeah, it's just not too easy to set up a pass there, and didn't want to let the leader get away if you do actually set up a pass.
So how do you feel going into next week? You were in 3rd in the standings, and this the first 3 drivers in the standings finished 1, 2, 3 on the podium tonight. So going into WeatherTech Raceway Laguna, how do you feel going to that track?
Yeah, the Austin Invest machine was actually very fast today, so I'm feeling good going into Laguna. It's a very fun track. You can definitely set up a little bit more passes than you could at Sonoma, so I'm excited.
And even getting the plug in for the sponsor, it's Alan
Olson's going to be a happy camper after.
Yeah,
Yep. Got to get it in there for him.
Yeah. So yeah, well, in fact, Kyle's even underlining it on screen right now for you. So well done there. It's nice to know that even in the virtual space, we are making room for that. Yeah, Ryan Maloney, nice job tonight, and nice job saving a dance for the folks that brought you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, we'll see you next weekend at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Thanks for joining us, Ryan.
Have a good one.
All righty, that is Ryan Maloney, finished third today on the eSports Super Tour, and that is after he finished, I believe he finished third last week at Lime Rock as well. So he's got a pretty good streak going here now.
Yeah. Don't let me talk to DJ. We'll be here all night. So
I think any of us could talk to DJ and be here all night.
Wow. Those are fighting words.
No, I mean, we'll just start chatting, and the next thing you know, it'll be everybody will be asleep, and they'll be playing Halo 3, and no one's paying attention to us. So
time.
Who wants pancakes, right?
So now it's definitely a party. We've got both DJ Alessandrini, our winner today, and John Allen. This might be the best the best way to go about it. Just let our top two podium finishers battle it out here in the announce booth. John, after that first couple laps where the three of you were so tight, what did you need to do, or what kept you from getting right up to DJ there for the last couple laps for the win?
Well, really 2 words: Ryan Maloney. He was right in my pocket the whole race, and I barely had a chance to make a plan, to try and do something. It took me half the race to figure out that I think DJ was a 10th or so quicker on the front side, and I might have had a 10th on him on the backside from carousel on. But I never got the run out of carousel. We were talking about it after the race that I would normally get with my line because I diamonded it more. And every time in the carousel, I saw Ryan peaking, and I didn't want to risk losing the spot over trying to set up the ideal line. So the best I could do was be, right on his bumper sometimes for that hairpin instead of actually getting alongside. And with, I think, a lap to go, I had a chance to do a legit under over, maybe even on the last lap. And I didn't have the patience to let the tires get underneath me, and I got a little bit drifty out of that final turn. We might have at least had a photo finish. Who knows?
Yeah. So DJ, it looked like at least on the final time through the hairpin there, you definitely got a little defensive. You thought that John might try to make that late braking move. How did what you saw going on behind you impact the way you ran the race?
So I could tell just from the attitude of John's car toward the end of that race that he had better front tires than me. My front left was falling off pretty bad. And Sonoma's a really tough track to pass on. So I just knew that if I just kept getting good runs out of the key corners, we'd be fine. And I kind of had a feeling that John wasn't going to do anything crazy in the hairpin just because Ryan was so close to him and he didn't want to risk being in third because, again, Sonoma's really tough to pass on. And if you're in third, then you kind of have to wait for first and second to mix it up to really get anything because you don't even have the draft advantage at that point.
Excellent. All right. So given that I think you've moved up to the top of the order in the points after tonight's win, what are your plans going into Laguna Seca next weekend, or next Thursday, actually?
Get second. John is really good at Laguna. If he shows up on his A game and I show up in my A game, there's something about Laguna Seca that doesn't mix with me. If I can take a win there, I'll be fist pumping at the end. But really, I'm just going to be going for a solid point finish, and I'll still try to win. But I know what tracks I'm good at, and I know what tracks John's good at, and Laguna is definitely John's one of his stronger tracks.
So, John, now that DJ's put all the pressure on you, what are the keys to the game for you next week?
Well, yeah, it does put a little more pressure on, because now we're, this was the halfway point when we could look and kind of see pretty close in points. And, if I needed to maybe finish ahead of him, regardless where we were, if it was third or fourth or first or second for the last 3 races, that was probably the goal coming into tonight. Now, that probably won't suffice unless it's first both times or something. So thankfully, yeah, Laguna treats me pretty well usually, so there's a chance of that there. But I'll tell you what, we got to keep an eye on Ryan, because before tonight, there was a hosted session up, which actually DJ and I both jumped into, and I thought my biggest mistake was going in there and running a really solid lap, because DJ had the quick time in there, and then I went in and set a time that was 4 or 5 tenths quicker. And that was probably my biggest mistake of the night, was giving him a higher mark to go for instead of letting him think he was quick where he was. It's because he found it and then put it on pole for the race, and so that's what motivates you, is to be challenged again and again and again.
All right. So JG, do you have any questions for DJ or John?
Yeah, no, it was an honor to watch all you guys compete tonight. It looked like on everybody's part a very defensive race. John, you mentioned that just watching Ryan Maloney in your mirrors slowed you up a little bit. How much is the track an element in races here? Both of you, or actually everybody we've talked to tonight, has mentioned how hard passing is here. Where do you even begin to devise a strategy for a track like this that demands so much of your attention and forces you to drive such a defensive race?
I think that probably you'll find preferences on setup vary here more than most places. Any place you have that, maybe Suzuka, or here somewhere there's a lot of that S's, maybe even Road Atlanta, where you're shifting the weight of the car a lot. Different people like different attitudes for the car's behavior there, and so that's why I mentioned earlier, it took half the race to figure out what are those subtle differences between DJ's and mine, and it became obvious that the only place, if I could be close enough out of turn 7, the only place I could make a run was after those S's, because I would seem to be in there and nowhere else.
Yeah, well, it was fun. It was fun. Yeah. Oh, DJ, go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to talk a little crap. He also had the draft that entire time. Just saying.
So yeah, it was fun watching you guys from up here, and it was a different flavor of race this week than we've seen. There wasn't a lot of the aggressive moves, but a lot of real subtle stuff going on, and three drivers really desperately trying to be the guy who screwed up the least, I think, is what was going on tonight.
Yeah, it was definitely mistake mitigation. We were talking after the race, and we were saying, it's an easy track to make mistakes on, and it's a hard track to pass. So it adds that extra pressure to read where the tires are at currently in that lap, and read, how far behind you are after that first element, because it all flows together. And those things are tough with the way the car changes over the race.
Yeah, there's always a little bit of luck involved, because even be close at the end, it was a combination of within half a lap, Ryan put a tire off, probably made his only mistake of the race coming out of the S's, and that gave me a little breathing room. And then the very next time through turn 2 was the only time I saw DJ get loose at all. So those two followed suit, and I finally had room to try something. It came so late.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks for joining us. It was a fun race to watch. We'll see you next week at WeatherTech Raceway, just across the bay to the south.
All right.
All right, so that was DJ Alessandrini and John Allen, our top 2 finishers on the podium tonight at Sonoma Raceway. And with that, I want to thank everybody once again for joining us here on the eSports Super Tour. Want to, before we sign off, thank some of the great people that helped make this possible. First, we've got the great folks from the Sports Car Club of America. We've got Kristen Poole, as well as Steve Ray behind the scenes. We also have the wonderful folks from SimTV, who without them, we couldn't put the show on. So we've got Kyle Heyer and Finian DeCuna, so definitely want to thank them. want to thank Larry for not showing up tonight, and and JG, thank you for once again for sitting in and helping me out here. You definitely make it a lot easier for me to get through the evening.
This is a blast, man. And just to reiterate what you said about guys like Kyle and Kristen. I'm somebody who's obviously no stranger to doing some live broadcasting now and then. But if the folks who are watching this could see just how much stuff is going on behind the scenes of one of these things, it's fun to be a part of, but it's impressive to watch you guys work. And Greg and I have the easiest jobs here because we just sit here and watch a screen and yammer for a couple hours. But there are a lot of folks pushing a lot of buttons and doing it in, as far as I can tell, the absolute right order for a very long time. Yes, thank you, Kyle, for that chyron up there.
Excellent. All right, so again, real quick before we break away and call it a night, wanted to give a couple of updates. Of course, we do have some, and you see here the next week we're going to be at WeatherTech Laguna Seca. Probably should have mentioned this before, but in the coming weeks we have the Time Trials National Tour put on by the SCCA in real life at real tracks taking place. You can find out more information by going to timetrials.scca.com. July 3rd and 4th, 4th of July weekend, we've got the 75th anniversary of the very first SCCA road rally event, and that took place at the original Thompson Speedway. And so we're going to be at Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park in Thompson, Connecticut. Again, this event is not sold out. If you want to bring your car and run it at a time trials event, you can certainly do that. If you go to timetrials.scca.com, you can find out all about the program, and you can definitely bring your own car out there to see that. We also then have July 18th and 19th, another Time Trials National Tour event at Gingerman Raceway in South Haven, Michigan. So again, a great way now that some of the racetracks around America are starting to open back up. The SCCA is able to start bringing events back to these racetracks in more than just the virtual world, but in real life as well. Definitely look us up. Again, those of you also who have been watching faithfully tonight on YouTube, remember to give the video a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, go and subscribe and click the little notification bell so you find out about every single race weekend and every single race event that we have here with the Sports Car Club of America published on YouTube. And for those of you that had trouble on Facebook, well, I'm sorry. Like us anyhow on Facebook because typically we broadcast all the events there as well. For JG Pasterjack, I'm Greg Ginsburg. Thank you so much for listening to the 2020 Hoosier Racing Tire eSports Super Tour. We'll see you next week at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca.